Hi, this is Sally Wood and I have these two very interesting chairs and I'm really not sure with the fabric that's going on how I'm going to put it back together.
I'm going to put a pin here which corresponds with the piping here. Having marked all these, I can now remove the seat cushion. Before I release this side and this side, I've pinned them back into place and I've got my bubble here. On either side I have my pins to mark it. Line the top up with that pin and the top up with that pin. And I'm going to mark that side and that side. So when I take that out, these pin marks need to come here and here for me to get everything in place. Now this is the fantastic fabric that is going on. It's like a cut velvet. It's really quite interesting. I've got the centre marked here, which I'm going to pull over. And I also have a mark here for the centre. Pull that over, pop that in here. I think that looks about even. And now I will work it into place here. When I'm happy with it, I'll take this piece out and secure it this side and the same on that side. What I need to do, this is the side, so I'm going to pull that along here and just line it up. When I pull this up here, here is my line for the top of the seat. It's about halfway in here, so I am going to pin that here. And now on this piece of fabric is the mark that I need to line up on the seat cover. I'm trying to get a pattern for this. All I'm going to do is put my pins where these joins are, because that is my sew line. And because the fabric is so thick, I actually have to peel the fabric back so I can put my fingers where the pin has to go. It's a very slow process doing it this way, but that's the way it's got to be. Always try to make the line as smooth as you possibly can. I'm going to overcut it so that I can make sure that it's even both sides. I don't know how well the other person did the job, and the fabric wasn't one that was going to show up if it was going to be bad. The problem I have with this is the front border. The piping has to go right on the edge here. That's a little bit annoying. I'll ease the side round so that it goes in smoothly with a slight curve. I should be able to get the other front out up here. I had to put this into the chair and repin a few places because I wasn't happy with it. Having marked the centre, top and bottom, I centred it first and now I'm cutting. I've just cut the top layer and now I'm going to cut the bottom layer to match. There's that one. I've kind of cut it in a little bit too sharp there, so I'm going to just round it. I think I can push it in slightly, so I'm going to finish it along here. And again, cut the second layer. On thick fabrics, I tend to do it layer by layer and then it doesn't walk. There is my first seat cover, and now I'll use this for the pattern. I've cut the piping. It's 1.5 inches wide. The pile goes down. Now cut it on the diagonal and I'll join it all the same. The reason why I did that is because when the piping goes on, I don't have to match anything. I'm going to start midway along the back with a 1/2 inch seam all the way around. I have the stitch on the longest stitch. The back I need to square off slightly. I'm going to just round that into the side like this. Put a little nick in there. It shouldn't need it because it is on the bias, but it just tells me to twist the fabric at that point. Straighten that side out a bit. Any threads you have, just make sure they go that side if you can. And work your way around. I accidentally cut this in slightly too close, so I'm going to bring this out a little bit. Sometimes taking patterns off existing chair seats is awkward. To go around that curve, I'm just going to put some clips in like this, not through my stitching. Bring that out just a little bit. So long as there's at least 1/4 inch seam allowance there, that'll be fine. And then bring it in. I'll twist the fabric as I get there. And that should go in quite evenly. And then reline it up for your 1/2 inch seam allowance at the front here. Now I'll go all the way around until I get to the back. I've run out of piping, so what I'm going to do is just add some to it, because I usually have 2 or 3 jobs being run through at the same time, so to have all my piping tied up with one colour is a bit irritating, so I tend to cut it and use it as I need it. Put it on a 2.8, so it's just on that corner, on down at a right angle. Trim this back to within 1/4 inch seam allowance so it's not too bulky. Kind of tug that into place and sew. Right, here's my join. Put the 45-degree angles together like that and roll that tightly over the join. I always push the piping up so that it's really secure, and then carry on going. So I just continue making the piping up like I usually do. Go back to where I finished a short while ago, pop it down, pull the threads that side and carry on sewing. When I get to the top, I'm going to overlap it. I could take it a bit closer, but I'm still going to give myself a generous inch overlap. And that's that side done. So to join the piping, just going to cut down here so it's nice and open. Cut that at a 45-degree angle, and then that one too, so it fits in there. This is quite long, so I'm actually going to cut that back to here at a 45-degree angle, and then fold that inside, and I'm going to cut it across the same angle from about here. Fold it over like that, and then you get a nice sharp edge like that. Or in this case, not so sharp because of the way the fabric is. I need to open that just a wee bit more. Double check where the join is, and it's round about there. Open that up, fold that over. It makes life a lot easier if you do that. And line it up. Should be about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, so somewhere in that sweet spot. Reduce the stitch to 2.8 and go across. Open it up and see what it looks like. I think that will work. I'm going to close up the piping at the back, push that in, pop that there, and pull it into shape and sew. When that's done, maneuver the piping into the back. Make sure all your threads are on the wrong side. This is the right side, this is the wrong side. And then they won't get caught up. Okay, so I have to pattern match. This part of the chevron here is this part of the chevron here. This part of the chevron is, if I turn this round, this part here. So this has to go together to match this. Hold these two together for now and then turn it over. If I roll this down like that, it should still line up. This part of the pattern here has to be tucked into the piping. Now I'm going to match from here on round, and then I will go back here and pull it in. I am not going to start here and go all the way along the front just in case the fabric moves. If the fabric moves, I've got to take it all out again, and that gets a bit irritating. It's a bit awkward to tell where this part starts because it goes into the black, so I'm having to line it up here. Pull that over like that, make sure that's there, and under the foot. Double check again before I start sewing. Make sure that the stitching here is right on this edge here. It's a bit tight. I've already done it on the other one, and I know it works. Got a stitch length of 5, and I move the needle across one click and then start. I'm going to line up these here. Again, make sure that's in line. And then again here, make sure that those are in line to there. Because this is curved, I'm going to keep the border straight and then just pull in the curved fabric and it will roll into place. Just take it in small increments. And that will roll in nicely. And then you can straighten it out. So really no different from any other border that you put in and you have to pattern match. Usually you have a little bit more fabric on that side with the pattern on. I'm not going to go all the way to the back, it's a rounded back. I'm going to stop about here. And then I check. That actually looks pretty close. I'm pleased with that. I'll put it in from this side and work my way in. I have often started things and then discovered that I've done it wrong. So that's why I do the front border in a couple of parts. So I'll make sure that that and that line up like that. And you can see it dips down, but when it gets sewn in, it will line up. There's nothing really to line it up against apart from those. Pop that in and sew. Straighten that out and it should all pull in and be a straight line. So that's the top. I'm going to lay that here. Here's the center panel in the pattern, and here it is on the second side of the cushion, and I'm going to line that up, make sure that that and that are in line, and again start from the center panel of the pattern and work my way around, and then I'll go back here and start forward. I think this walked. I think it's okay. I'll just pull it slightly. That one and that one have to line up. I might have to pull this one out. I'm not going to go any further than that, and I'll check. Yeah, you can see this is all over. So I've got to take this out and move it back 1/4 inch and reline it. I need to put the side in, so I've folded the fabric over like that, which is the border. And I'm going to lay this fabric on top and just stretch it out from the bottom of the cushion to the top, and somewhere along here I'll find my join, which is probably about here. If you've got stripes, you can usually line the stripes up and work out where it crosses, and that looks about right. And then pop that underneath and sew it into place. Alter it if you need to. I think that's close enough. Again, when you get to the curve, keep everything in line to go round. Push the second side in like that and just let the machine roll everything into place. Just takes a little bit of manoeuvring, especially on a thick fabric. Now I'm going to do the zip. Fold that back, probably about 1/2 inch. Pop that down on top with the side of the zip along the side of the raw edge. Slide that underneath there and start sewing. Try to keep everything in line as you go. Nice and easy. Now I'm going to put the other side in. Fold over my 1/2 inch and pop that hard up against it. Now I prefer to hold this at a slight angle. It ensures that the teeth of the zip are hidden. And because it's part of the pattern, I'm going to see if I can keep it in line with the pattern. Sometimes you'll find that one side goes in tighter than the other on a zip. It's really irritating. The other thing is when you're doing a velvet or something with a pile, if you go at a slight angle across the foot, it tends to go in straighter than if you straighten it up, because you're pushing the fabric into the zip. Now for the zip, this is the top tooth here. I open that up, slide that down, make sure the lever is down. It's got teeth on it, so that will stop the slider sliding onto the teeth. Then you just have to guess where the top is and push down. I can already see that that's wrong. This sometimes takes a little bit of manoeuvring before you get it right. Top tooth's there. The other way to tell is when you slide it down, if it looks even here, then you've got it on evenly. If one side bulges out compared to the other, then you have to start again. Fold that in half, popped it more or less in the center of the back there and moved it into place. Now the join can go as far down as here. Just a little quick tug and that'll pull out. Pull this up, I'm going to cut along there. To attach the zip, here's the side border. I'm going to pop that on. I'm not going to worry too much that it doesn't come all the way to the edge. So long as it's close enough on both sides. Pop that down. I'm going to give it a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Forward and then back. Make my way to the center. And I've got a piece of fabric here. It's only narrow, but it will do the job. Slide that under the foot so it gets caught. Drop the foot on top and then just sew over it. Reverse over the stitches, just carefully because sometimes you break your needle, and then forward again to the end. To put this on, I'm just going to pop this back underneath and I'm going to sew on round. Make sure that the seam is facing forward like that, and then sew into position. This one, because of where the fabric was taken from, I only have 1/4 inch for the seam allowance. So that is why I'm keeping an eye on where I'm putting it, rather than just sewing it in. It's just a bit skimpy, that's all. Sew it to the other side. Because of the thickness of the fabric, I will check that the stitches were caught on the other side. And if not, I'll have to go over that area again. Just a little bit round the corner. I need to make sure that I have no joins in the piping where this is going to be joined. Keep that straight. I think again, if I just cut along there, it will give me enough in the seam. I've put this side in and now I'm going to sew it in. Sometimes when I've got really thick fabric, I cut it back like that so that it just goes in a lot more evenly. Bear that in mind if you're working on really thick fabric. Let's get those out while I'm thinking on it. And that side had a little bit of a pleat, so I'm going to do the same on this side to make sure it goes in even and doesn't twist. Then sew this in. Pull this in. I was pleased the seam actually stayed in the right direction. Sometimes it changes and you have to go back. And now I'll put the back of this in as smoothly as I can until I get all the way around to the other side. Thank you
for joining me on this project. If you want to hear more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be absolutely excellent. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.